Hi guys, it's Prash from Managed Property over here. Hope we're doing well. So today I'm going to tell you the reason behind why I've chosen HMO as one of my property strategy. I think the reason for that, apart from my buy-to-let, which I tend to use for equity growth, HMO is for me the right way of creating more cash flow. You know, as a day to day, you really want to have a bit of cash flow coming in. But also on top of that, it's the closest thing, I suppose, or closest strategy that relates to my day to day jobs that I've been doing for the last 18 years. So my work life, I'm a store manager. For those of you who hasn't checked me out, please do so. I'm on LinkedIn, Prashant Budu, easily can find me. And you will see in there, I've worked for different companies. So my retail career started in clothes retail and then moved into food. And then from food went into general merch, and now it's more tailored towards a bit of general merch, but more of hardware and seasonal product. And through that, over the years, I've been taught by a lot of people, and I've worked with a lot of people, and I've got experience different stages of retail and also how retail evolved, and also myself as an individual, how I was able to grow. Myself and my people skill, but also my management skill, and how do I manage situation, how do I manage people, but also how do we manage expectation. But most importantly, is how do we run a business? At the end of the day, retail is a very aggressive business. We've seen a lot of retailers close down, and I'm quite grateful. I work for one of the retailers that's doing pretty all right at the moment, but also that's been able to evolve with time. And I think retail and HMOs has got a very, very close relationship. So within retail itself, we've got loads of regulation. You've got your health and safety, you've got your company policies and procedures, but also you've got your trading standards. You've got the safety of your customers, your team members, and you've got the store that you operate itself, more like a business. Our store managers, everything stopped to us when it comes to how much we're making for the store, and what the company has set with regards to promotion. How do we launch our promotion, but also how do we increase our basket spend, and how do we influence the IPB, item per basket. How are we able to grow that margin within your store within the same four wall, within year on year. Those are on retail, would totally understand where I'm coming from, where your payroll is dropping year on year, and you need to ensure that your cost to serve ratio is dropping down, but your profit margin, your bottom line, is actually increasing, or your pence per pound net profit is growing. As you can see, for those that's been on retail, clearly it would have an understanding of what I'm talking about. For those that's not, being a retail store manager, there is a lot of challenges, and I think respect to all these store managers that's currently working and trading in the moment, because our job is not easy, as what people will make it to be. Now, how does that relate to HMO? Well, with regards to HMO, it's got very close similarities with how many HMOs we've got around. When in one of my videos I talked about market saturation. How is it that we are able to market our HMO in an area where it's dominated by a lot of HMOs? It's very easy to find for those of you who doesn't. You just need to pull out your registry from the council and do a quick run, and you'll get an idea of how many HMOs is around you. But also, there are some few regulation that the council will set into place, i.e., how big is the size of room needs to be, or how many bedrooms it needs to have, but also what services you are as a landlord, as a HMO landlord itself, you would provide to your tenants, so that you make your product more appealing, and where would you market it, but also what kind of tenant demographic you will have, well, not demographic, but profile you will have in that in a house of yours, and how would you maintain that community spirit within that property so that your um, occupancy rate remains quite high. On average, we're looking at 80% to be the normal, at the moment. But you would want some more. You would want better than that because then there's less work involved. So it's the same when it comes to retail. With retails, you've got your company policies and procedures, as I've previously mentioned, where your company will set ways for you to be able to operate that you will need to adhere to. And then you will have your auditors or your profit protection team that will make sure that you are following that kind of set ways that's been designed by the company by doing audits and stuff. The other way around, in HMOs, you'll have the council officers and the health and safety officers that will come out and make sure that you're operating the right way. And if your tenants are making a complaint, these guys will come out just to make sure that you're doing things right. Same for within retail itself. If you're not operating in the right way, or you're not adhering to trading standards, your customers will be putting some complaint out, and these are getting investigated. And if you're not doing the right thing, then of course you'll need to bear the consequences of that. So the other bit would be, with regards to, if now I've got an empty room in an HMO, how would I market it? So there is a lot of, marketing tools that there is at the moment where people would actually promote their business on spare room and stuff like that. But now, with the way that the HMO market is going, and how advanced it's going, there are some of the tired landlord or lazy landlords that's not moving within times, where they're not using that marketing tools. Now you've got also Facebook that's playing a big part in marketing. How do you attract the right tenants to operate, to come and live in these properties? But also, how do you have the right people to manage your HMO if you want to have a hands-off approach? These are the things that you would want your managing agents to make sure that will be their strong points. So how is that relative to what I'm talking about in retail? So over the last 18 or 20 odd years I've been in retail, and from day one we talked about having the right product in the right place, creating the right team. How do we implement promotion? Why would we have a certain promotion on a certain time? So based on seasonality, how do we sell that product? How do we make that product actually sell where a customer is willing to buy it? But also on top of that, how are we able to have perfect matches or impulse line that the customer will buy in addition to the product which is on promotion, so that we're able to increase that basket spend? But also where that product will be located, what part of the store would that be located? And the reason why is because you will mainly have it in your promotion aisles, your running track, that you call it, the main aisle that customers will walk in, or as you enter the store, because this is where you'll have more footfall, and this is where if you place that product there, that product would go if the price is right. But also, if your competitors are not providing the same kind of product, because then that product become a bit of a uniqueness to your store, so which is dictated a bit about what your brand is trying to do. So with regards to an HMO, it will be nearly the same. It's regards to what kind of rooms are you providing, what kind of facilities, is it en suite? Nowadays most of these HMOs are operating with en suite, so for those that's not catching up, unfortunately they will rather the occupancy rate would reduce, but also they will need to reduce their price, because people are after more quality life, because you need to move with trends, and if your competitors are actually providing a better service, then that's what you'll need to do. So in relation to retail, we have to see what the competitors are doing, so that we are able to adapt and react, and be proactive at generating promotion or price match that our customers will buy. At the end of the day, there's so many retailers out there, and for all the retailers that work, all of them are able to make money because they are adapting to what the customer needs is and what and their wants, and that's what you need to do in HMOs. You need to be able to provide a service which is engaging, so that you will have your tenant profile, but also your tenant flow, where one is going, there is another one ready to come in. But also, how do you cannibalize on the market? How are you able to market your property or your service to other tenants, which is already living in your existing HMOs near to you, which is that will be your future customers in a way. But at the same time, when we're talking about property is a people business. So with regards to building rapport, and whenever you're selecting your tenant, or you're doing the validation of that tenant before they come in, are they the right people to fit in that community that you've created in the HMO, so that they will be able to live with the already existing tenants in there, and life will not be difficult for neither people. And that's what you want. You really want to get someone that will come in with the right kind of tenant profile to be able to live in with the existing people in the house, because the dynamics in the house will stay the same. There will not be too much issue, and you bring that with regards to how can I relate this to retail? Well, it's simple. In retail, we've been trained on how do we interview people, how do we get people to integrate with our existing team, but also how do we get our team. There will be key leaders in that team where you're able to cultivate that behavior, so that they're able to adjust and welcome new people on board. And how do we train them, or how do we talk to them, so that we're able to build that rapport, so that that person would be able to trust your leadership on the work that they're doing, but also on the training and coaching that you're providing them. But most importantly, and to have the belief in what you're doing in the store, so that they are able to work at 100% to deliver you the result that you need. Now, reverting back to an HMOs, you've got a new tenant in. How would your existing tenant welcome these people? We will tend to let people know what it is, but also how easy would be the new tenants to live with the atmosphere in the house itself. So these are very, very important stuff, and for us as retailers or HMO person, I think this correlation is pretty good. And the other thing would be, bottom lines, profit and loss, and expense versus earnings. HMOs, is a very expense-driven product. And your occupancy rate dictate how much money you're making, i.e. how much you're earning out of that property. But the standard cost would still be there. You still need to pay your bills, you still need to pay your broadband, you'll need to have the premium pack broadband, because this is key at the moment. A lot of people are working from home, and you're trying to create that environment where it's welcome, that little community bubble where it's easy for people to work from home also, and providing Netflix and all the rest that comes with it. But also, how do we get people to stay even more? And with COVID that's been here, with all the new regulation that was there, with crowd gathering and all the restrictions with that, how do you still make that business work? And how are you still able, let's say for argument's sake, if you had tenants that working from home or has been made furloughed, that were not able to pay, how do you adjust yourself so that you're able to, one, pay for the mortgage, or the landlords that you've already given a rent guarantee to. At the end of the day, it's not their problem that your tenant is not paying. It is for you to be able to manage the expectation, and also create, with that tenant. If a tenant has been a good tenant and has paid you all that time, and unfortunately COVID came in, they've been made furlough and they've got nowhere to go. How do you as a managing agent build a rapport so that you're able, okay, let's create a payment plan for you, so that you are able to adjust that, but also to have a good rapport or a good relationship with the landlord, and explain to them, this is the situation. You will get your money. You might not be in full right now, but once we've done a payment plan, we'll be able to do that if you're able to adjust. And I think it's a very a two-way conversation in especially in these current times. It's really good because I'd rather be open and honest than hiding and not saying things as it is. And it's the same in retail. You will have your team that been affected by COVID. Unfortunately, there will be some that's lost their families. There will be some that have been off sick due to that, or just been unwell because of COVID. Vulnerable people that was not working. And how do you, as that manager or that managing agents, balance the whole lot? Because your costs you still need to pay for all these expenses while you're still not making as much money as it is. So that managing that stressful, because these kinds of situation is quite stressful. Situation like that, fortunately does not happen so often, but when it does, we should be able to be dealing with that. And I think that's why, as a retailer or as a store manager, I think day in and day out, our job is quite interesting, because a lot of it is thrown at us, and as the last man standing, in a way, we have to deliver this result. At the end of the day, we get paid to deliver result, and that's what we do. And same, I think, with HMOs. At the end of the day, it's someone else's property that they've given us on rent to rent, for argument's sake, or our own, where we will have to make it work. Especially when you think about. You've leveraged that property, you've tried to maximize it and convert that and got a commercial evaluation where bricks and mortar evaluation, that money is not there anymore. So if ever you had to resell that property, you will need to take money out of your own pocket to be able to pay off that mortgage, because a commercial mortgage is more expensive than your standard brick and mortar mortgage, right? So if ever you're willing to make your money work, and that will be the reason. But I think that's the correlation that I can bring with it. But in all fairness, for those of you guys who's managing an HMO, respect to you, because it's not an easy stuff. People always talk about the good stuff, but we don't talk about the bad stuff. So, there will be situation where at 2-3 o'clock in the morning you're getting a call where someone is having a bit of an episode in a room, or someone's having an argument with a girlfriend that's not meant to be there, and how do you deal with that situation when that phone is ringing, especially if you've got another work that you need to go at 9 o'clock or at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's not easy, but it's I think if you really liked dealing with people and working in a structured way and following things by the book, HMO is the thing for you. I think for me, this is what I like, and I suppose if you look at all these HMO operators at the moment, that's doing pretty well. The reason why they're doing well is because, one, the product that they've got in the market is really premium. They've got a specific market that they're going for, which is great. But also they've evolved with time and they've reacted with time, and they are using all the marketing tool available to make their business operate and run. But most importantly, they've been able to create a good rapport with their tenants, where the tenants are staying there longer, and that occupancy rate is quite great. And I think this is the value that people like me can bring to your HMO, especially when we're approaching landlords that needs to have that trust in us, because at the end of the day, you've spent X amount of money on an HMO, and HMO are not cheap. You need to have an additional 100 to 120k, depending on how big your property is, to be able to convert that and making sure that it operates. And most of these guys has been doing that for years, so they already know what it is. So what value can I bring to them at a time is been asked. And I think the most important one is, I think before that, just when people get to know and talk to me and start realizing, apart from property, what I do and how I'm able to bring that skills that I've learned over the years into property, then the conversation changes, and what we are able to propose becomes very interesting for them. And don't get me wrong, at time, property, especially in HMO, the amount of time is required can be a bit tiring. And there is a lot people out there at the moment, especially with COVID, that suffered from tenant not paying or tenant leaving, that don't want to do it anymore. And I think for these people like me, are able to help you. So feel free to get in touch. It's Prash from Managed Property. And for those of you that's not too sure of what I've talked about today, or a bit confused, feel free to get in touch, and I can explain that to you guys. Cheers. Let's all have a good day.